Like I said, so I want to say thank you for your time on this, and just shout out Kevin So Jam and James for basically making this possible. Um, you know, growing up in California, the state of, how did that shape you as a youth and to get into DJing?
Man, I tell the story all the time. When I was a youngster growing up in Compton, we had parties all the time, dances, parties, places to get together. And even I went to Catholic school. We still had noon dances and after school dances. So watching people play records, it wasn't DJs back then, it was just people playing records. And then later on, I went to some of the park dances. Some of the radio station DJs would come out and play records, and they had so much control over the crowd. I just wanted to be able to do that one day. And I thought you had to become a radio DJ to become a park DJ. So I went to broadcast school. I learned how to be a radio broadcaster with the intentions on coming back, playing in the park, which I never did, but that's okay. I did a whole lot more.
That's right. That's right. No, this is obviously back in the day when there weren't any CDJs or there was no sync button neither.
Man, it wasn't even a real disco mixers back then, dude. No, there was no such thing as a disco mixer. When I first started playing with a component sets. I'd had the record playing or the 8-track playing, and I'd stop it just in time for the 8-track would change over, or just had to. I know how to talk at an early age because I was a broadcast DJ, so I would talk in between changing records. So I'm talking the whole time while I'm trying to change a record. And later on, after about 2 years, I finally found a band mixer that allowed me to plug 2 turntables into it, and I would just fade them in and out manually. So, and still no crossfader.
Growing up, like in that time period, what were some musical influences that you really liked? Obviously, as you're watching this, you can see what works in a crowd, but to you, what did you really like?
Man, I was always into the Ohio Players, dude. You're talking to a kid that was raised in the 70s. So Ohio Players was always one of my favorite. Our Isley Brothers, all these guys were, contrary to popular belief, they were all big party records back then. Love Roller Coaster. One of the Ohio Players' first songs, Pain, was a big party record for me as a kid. So we partied to a lot of soul music, R&B music. So we might be partying to I don't know, James Brown or Joe Tex, somebody crazy that nobody would ever think today that would be a party record. That's how it was back then.
Did you ever have any experiences where you had to learn the hard way of how the weather affected the records if they got too hot?
Yeah. I learned later on as I became got more active in promoting. I would go out to the park and play in the park, and there was no shade. And I noticed my record started to warp. And cause I just pull up in my van, set my table out front. And I'm beaming. It's beaming. No shade, no trees whatsoever. Because I'm basically playing up against the curb. And but I also learned how to fix it too.
Right.
And that was another thing. You had to heat them up a little bit and just slightly put them in the oven and put something on them, put something heavy on it that it didn't stick to, and you could fix a lot of times you could fix that problem.
It was crazy. It's like I'm 24. Like people my age or even younger or even older don't even know about stuff like that.
Nah, I mean, a lot of stuff that back then you had to be a DJ, a MC, and a technician, man.
Right.
It was a whole different, and you had to be a mover because to do a party back in the 70s, man, everything was heavy as hell, dude. It was like moving a 1-bedroom apartment 4 times in one night. Now I say this anytime I do an interview. By the time you grab 2 or 3 BGWs, a couple of BM, a Thurman Vegas, a console, 12, 13 crates of records. Dude, you just moved the bedroom, a dresser, a nightstand, and some other stuff 4 times. The same weight. And just you stick it into the van, go to the party, unload it, wrap up the party, load it back in, and you dare not leave your equipment in the truck. So you had to unload it at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning back in the house. So yeah, you had to have help. And it was a very physical job.
When you were starting to learn and you going to school for it, things like that, who really taught you time signatures and beat matching and things like that?
There was none of that back then, Doc. It was just blending. The biggest thing I learned as a DJ was programming. programming, and there was a term they used, dead air. In radio, silence cost you money. So they taught us never to have dead air. If you were on the radio and you had not pulled a record, start talking. Do not let silence reign out. But most of all, they taught us how to program. And as a house party DJ, which was what I was for years, you had to learn how to program for different crowds. And what I mean by that is, if you're playing for a young crowd, they can go 30 minutes straight, 40 minutes straight, just all tempo, because they got the energy. But if you're playing for an older crowd, they don't have the same energy level. So you have to break it down a little faster, give them some cha-cha, some slow records so they can catch their breath, because it's not, once you burn them out, you'll never get them up again.
When you were doing that, how are you reading a room? Were you just playing it by the feeling in the moment?
Yeah, dude. And that was one of the things that being a programmer, you learned. You have to watch people's body language. Bodies don't lie. And you sitting there, and you're in the beginning of a set. Not a lot of people are there, but you got a couple of people that's tapping their feet, bobbing their heads, singing along with you. But they may be in a whole nother conversation, and you start watching people around them, how your songs start to affect their body language, and then you start getting the algorithm that you can flow to. And most cats don't know how to do that. I mean, that was something that we was taught, how to read body language.
Right.
Okay. And once you understand how body language will give you ideas on how to go, you just start playing from there.
Did you ever have any problems, like in the very beginning of getting control of the room? Like specific, like did anybody ever try to like put their hands on you when they didn't what they wanted?
No, dude. The most you would get back then, because understand, I come from the house party era. I had to be at the house party at 7:00, and the old ladies in the kitchen. I'm set up, ready to go. They in the kitchen. They singing along with me. They listening to me. I don't know they listening. But if I play something else, play that same song later on, they'll let you know, hey boy, you played that song already about 7:00. I didn't know you was paying me. I'm paying that, listen to everything you saying, everything you doing. So once you understand, people not all, just because they're not dancing, don't mean they're not listening. So I never got pressed tonight. There was never that kind of party. Nah, it was just more ladies. All right, you played that already. I heard that twice tonight already. I don't play it no more. Okay, something like that. That's the most you would get.